Hey guys, Pieguyrulz here, and welcome back to Nick or Treat. Tonight we have a Jimmy Neutron episode, Nightmare in Retroville. Jimmy accidentally alters Carl and Sheen's DNA, turning them into monsters. When I rewatched this episode recently, I was really confused as to why Jimmy was surprised when Carl turned into a bat. I thought the goal was to actually make them into monsters so they'd be, as Timmy would put it, real and scary for Halloween. But no, his plan was actually a little bit more clever than that. He just wanted to make them look real and scary without making them actually become monsters. Which goes to show why Jimmy Neutron's the boy genius, and Timmy Turner is not. This episode also bears a few other similarities to the Fairly OddParents Halloween special, like the fact that when Sheen and Carl are trick-or-treating, the first person they run into is their principal. Also, the plot is solved by the character going under a pretty epic transformation towards the end. These are just little coincidences, and even if the stories are somewhat similar, the way each show tackles something, the tone of the show, makes it completely different from the other. This is why tone and style are so important for your show. If you have a cool style, both animation-wise and just in the way you tell the story, even the most cliche of cliches can become interesting and fresh once again. More to the point, this is a really fun episode. It's funny, got a good atmosphere, and has some nice references to classic movie monsters. And Michael Jackson. There's some goofy moments in this episode that are pretty funny and silly, like how whenever Jimmy is cornered by the monsters, there's a store right behind him that has whatever he needs to chase them away, or the fact that Cindy is dressed as a parody of Buffy the Vampire Slayer for Halloween. Now, what exactly do I mean by creepy atmosphere? This, like, well, everything I've reviewed up to this point, is not scary. None of the concepts are really that scary either. But this episode takes place at night, there's a lot of fog, they talk about monster lore, they're definitely in the spirit of Halloween. Even if things aren't particularly scary, they're at least a little bit creepy, which works in its favor. Because a show like this trying to be scary, I don't think would actually work. And I have to say, the creepiest part, as well as probably the funniest part, is when Carl starts sucking on his finger. The reactions from Jimmy and Sheen are priceless. And while I'm on that subject, yes, this episode does feature Carl getting cut, and like, the worst blood effect ever is used. Seriously, it couldn't look more unrealistic. I know Jimmy Neutron's like over a decade old now, and the CG wasn't exactly great back then, but I think most of it holds up, except for this blood effect. As far as classic monster references, I like the fact that Hugh, as Frankenstein, is wandering around town all mopey and misunderstood. I like the fact that when Carl turns Cindy into a vampire, there's this light that shines on his eyes. Not like his eyes are actually shining, like a light is shining onto his eyes, which is the very simple effect they did when Dracula would hypnotize people in the old-timey Universal's Dracula. Plus, as a Jimmy Neutron version of a classic horror song. Little references here and there makes the series feel like it's paying homage to classic monster movies. And that's awesome. There's other little things as well, like apparently Miss Fowl once dated a werewolf, or the fact that Libby's a vegetarian. Is that kept throughout the entire series? Somehow I don't believe so. Also, there's the fact that Carl wants to hypnotize Jimmy's mom into being a vampire. And the story is solid. There's some decent action scenes, and like I said, it can be a little bit creepy. Even though Carl and Sheen in their monster forms are definitely goofy, there's points where they seem actually somewhat threatening, at least to Jimmy. So this one definitely gets another recommendation. Pieguyrulz,